Have you ever noticed how some people find peace and freedom as they age, while others feel stuck in relationships that no longer serve them? The truth is, once you're over 60, having a partner isn't always the blessing people make it out to be. For many, it quietly becomes a source of stress, draining their energy, limiting their freedom, and adding more pressure to their later years. If you've ever felt like maintaining a relationship at this stage in life takes more than it gives, you are not alone. In this video, we're diving into 5 important reasons why having a partner in your later years might actually make life harder, not easier. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't about avoiding companionship altogether. It's about seeing the full picture and making choices that truly support your happiness and well-being. Stick with me to the end, because what you're about to hear might completely shift the way you think about relationships in your golden years. Number 1. The emotional weight of constant compromise. As you age, your tolerance for stress naturally decreases. But relationships still require constant compromise. When you're younger, adjusting your habits or preferences to keep the peace might feel worth it. But over time, those little sacrifices start to add up, and they don't always feel so small anymore. Even basic things, what to eat, where to go, how to spend your time, can turn into tiring back and forths. And that emotional toll builds up. Take Robert, for instance, a 74-year-old man who spent most of his life accommodating his wife's needs. Now all he wants is to enjoy quiet mornings with a cup of coffee. But his wife insists on blasting the TV the moment she wakes up. It seems like a small thing, but after years of constant compromises, it's exhausting. What once felt like love has turned into a daily battle of who gets to be comfortable. At some point in life, you shouldn't feel obligated to sacrifice your peace just to keep someone else happy. Many older adults find themselves stuck in emotional routines, constantly managing their partner's moods, apologizing, adjusting, giving in. And in your later years, that weight feels heavier than ever. Instead of feeling free to enjoy your days, you're still wrapped up in someone else's expectations. The truth is, if a relationship consistently drains your emotional energy, it's no longer helping you, it's holding you back. Peace of mind should be your top priority now. But many people stay in relationships out of routine, not joy, without realizing how much lighter life could feel if they stepped back from the constant need to compromise. Number 2. The loss of real independence. One of the biggest gifts of growing older is the chance to finally live life on your own terms. After decades of raising kids, working hard, and putting others first, you've earned the right to do what you want. But being in a relationship can still mean putting your choices second, because your time, your habits, your plans are tied to someone else's. You might think you're enjoying your golden years together, but deep down, you may be giving up the very thing that makes this time so meaningful: your freedom. Look at Frank, a 78-year-old who spent his whole life being a devoted husband. When his wife passed away, he realized something powerful. He had never actually made decisions just for himself. His entire life had been built around compromise, from where they lived to what they ate to how they spent their free time. But when he finally experienced true independence, something unexpected happened. He realized he had never known the joy of waking up with no obligations, no schedule shaped by someone else's needs, and no pressure to explain or justify his choices. It was a kind of freedom he hadn't even realized he'd been missing his whole life. And he's not alone. Many older couples, even in happy relationships, struggle with this reality. You're expected to check in, coordinate schedules, and adjust your plans to accommodate another person. It's not about disliking your partner, it's about acknowledging how much of your autonomy quietly disappears in a shared life. Spontaneous travel? Starting a new hobby? Changing up your daily routine? All of that starts to come with conditions, discussions, compromises, or outright resistance. Then there's the mental independence that fades over time. After years of debates, compromises, and joint decisions, your individual thoughts and opinions can slowly start to blend. And before you know it, you've forgotten what it feels like to think and decide purely for yourself. But when you're finally alone, when it's just you and your own thoughts, you reconnect with something powerful: your own voice. You make decisions based on what brings you joy, not just what keeps the peace. Independence isn't just about living alone. It's about moving through life without unnecessary constraints. In a long-term relationship, you become conditioned to adapt. But in your later years, the greatest gift you can give yourself might just be the freedom to live without those invisible restrictions, to follow your desires without hesitation. And hey, if you're still with me and you're finding this message helpful, comment number 2 down below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button and turn on the bell, so you never miss out on content that's designed to inform and inspire you. Number 3. The emotional exhaustion of constant compromise. At first, relationships bring comfort, support, and joy. But as you get older, you might realize they also require something you may no longer have the energy for: constant compromise. It's a slow, subtle drain. One you might not even notice until you experience the alternative: peaceful solitude where every decision is yours alone. Take Robert again. At 74, he had spent decades in a loving marriage. He cared deeply for his wife, but he was constantly compromising. Watching shows he didn't enjoy. Eating at places that weren't his preference. Adjusting his routine to fit hers. Each choice seemed small. But over time, those little sacrifices added up. When his wife passed away, he braced for loneliness. But instead he felt relief. For the first time in years, he could do exactly what he wanted, when he wanted, without checking in or worrying how it would affect someone else. It wasn't about not loving his wife. It was about finally realizing just how exhausting constant compromise had been. When you're young, compromise helps you grow. It teaches you patience and teamwork. But in old age, it starts to wear you down. At a stage in life meant for rest, reflection, and joy, you're still having to make adjustments, and it can feel more like a burden than a choice. You may not even realize how much of yourself you've set aside until you step outside of that dynamic. Even the most basic things: how to decorate your home, what doctor to see, when to go out, turn into negotiations. Over time, this constant give and take takes a toll, leaving many people more emotionally drained than they should be in their later years. The truth is, as you get older, the peace that comes from making decisions without debate becomes one of life's greatest luxuries. No more defending your choices, suppressing frustrations, or filtering your thoughts just to keep the peace. And that kind of mental clarity, the freedom to simply be yourself, is priceless. Number 4. The burden of caregiving that no one talks about. When people picture growing old in a relationship, they imagine companionship, love, and support lasting into the final chapters of life. But what many don't consider is the emotional and physical weight of caretaking, especially when one partner's health begins to decline. Take James, a 77-year-old man who had been married for over 50 years. When his wife got sick, he didn't think twice. He stepped into the role of caregiver. At first, it was manageable. Helping with small tasks, reminding her to take her medication, being there emotionally. But as time went on, her condition worsened, and so did his. He was barely sleeping. He lost weight. His own health began to crumble under the weight of constant stress. What started as an act of love became a full-time obligation, one that left no space for his own well-being. And this story is far from rare. Elderly caregivers, especially spouses, often suffer from depression, anxiety, and even physical illnesses themselves. The stress of putting someone else's needs before your own, day in and day out, can be overwhelming. And the sad irony? By the time one partner passes away, the other is often in worse health than if they had lived independently. Even in relationships where both partners are still healthy, the mental strain of always worrying about the other, making appointments, encouraging good habits, managing medications, it wears on you. That's why many seniors who choose to stay single in later life find that they feel freer, healthier, and more energized. Without the constant pressure of another person's health, they're able to focus on their own, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Loving someone is beautiful. But carrying the weight of another's declining health can be one of the heaviest burdens of all. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to prioritize your own well-being. If you're still here and this part resonated with you, drop a number 4 in the comments to let me know. And don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Your support means everything. It helps us keep creating meaningful content to inform and inspire. Now let's move on. Number 5. The financial and emotional strain of late-life partnerships. Many people assume that having a partner in your later years automatically brings comfort, stability, and security. But the truth is, it can also bring unexpected financial and emotional strain. Your golden years are meant to be peaceful. But for some, being in a relationship at this stage adds pressure, from shared expenses to growing medical bills, and even disagreements over money. Take Robert, for example. He's 80 now, and lived comfortably for years on his pension and savings after losing his wife. Life was simple and he filled his days with the things he loved. But when he entered a new relationship in his mid-70s, things shifted. His new partner had financial struggles of her own, and suddenly Robert found himself covering more than he had planned: household bills, healthcare expenses, and even helping support her adult children. What began as companionship turned into an unspoken financial obligation. Before long, he was dipping into his savings just to maintain the relationship. And Robert isn't alone. Many seniors who enter new relationships later in life find their financial stability tangled up with someone else's circumstances. While some couples manage it well, others face serious tension, especially when one partner depends on the other. It's not just about the money. It's about power, independence, and fairness. Financial imbalance can create resentment, stress, and emotional distance. Arguments about spending habits, medical costs, or inheritance can quietly eat away at the connection. And sadly, some older adults end up feeling stuck, afraid to leave because of money, or simply afraid of being alone. On the flip side, many who stay single into their later years report a greater sense of financial freedom. They spend how they want, save without guilt, and make decisions that reflect their best interests, not someone else's needs. There's real peace in knowing that your financial choices are yours alone. At the end of the day, relationships in old age are about more than love. They come with responsibilities, financial pressures, and emotional weight that often go unspoken. So if peace of mind and financial security matter to you, staying independent might just be the wisest decision you can make. Final thoughts: as you move through life, the choices you make in your later years carry more weight. And while society often tells us that growing old with a partner is the dream, that dream doesn't always match reality. For some, relationships in old age bring more conflict than comfort, more burden than peace. Aging should be about freedom to live on your own terms, to choose what truly makes you happy, and to leave behind anything that no longer serves you. Think about your own life for a moment. Are you holding on to a relationship that fills you with joy? Or are you staying out of fear, obligation, or routine? Every person's situation is different, but one thing remains true. Your later years should be peaceful, fulfilling, and free from unnecessary strain. Whether you choose to be with someone or walk your path alone, make sure it's a decision that truly improves your life. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. We'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share one takeaway from this video, or how you plan to apply it in your own life. Your thoughts mean a lot to us, and reading your comments gives us the motivation to keep creating content that matters. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Your support helps us keep doing what we love, creating content that informs, inspires, and helps people make better choices in every season of life. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next